Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Games I Speak. I'm Gio,
And I'm Josie.
and today we have a lot of interesting news. So we're going to jump right into the most, I guess, hype story of the week, which is the Steam Deck. So let's take a look at that. All right. So this kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like,
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect it.
yeah, I wasn't like I didn't hear about it at all, and then all of a sudden when Nintendo released the
Switch
uh,
OLED model.
Switch OLED model, Valve just came out and just dropped this out of nowhere, and everyone was like, "Whoa, what is going on here?" Um, so you and me both ordered a. Well, we didn't pre-order it; we reserved it. Right? We reserved
Yes.
the right to buy it.
Yes.
So which
Which
model
is,
did
I mean,
you?
it's essentially a pre-order, right?
It's kind of, but it's not in the sense that it's more like a game reserve at GameStop, where you put down your $5, but you can cancel. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Whereas like a full pre-order is like you're basically buying the whole thing right out.
Gotcha.
Which
Okay.
I think is smarter that they did the reserve because a lot of people are hesitant to just drop, $400, $500 right away.
Yes.
Especially when there's no reviews or anything. You know,
Yes.
so I think they did the right thing with $5 reservations.
Yes.
Um, so which model did you reserve?
I did the same model as you,
The
the
512?
512.
Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the comparisons between the Steam Deck and other modern consoles. So, all right, so this is a good article by The Verge where they basically break it down versus the Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series S, and the PlayStation 5. Now the Switch isn't on here, and I
I
have
wonder
seen,
why.
yeah, I have seen comparisons to the Switch. It blows this. The Switch isn't even nowhere near any of these consoles. So for all intensive purposes, like there's really no point to compare it to the Switch. The Switch has 4 GB of RAM. This thing has 16, and the architecture and the chip are totally blow the Switch out of the water. So it would have been cool if they had the Switch in this chart, but honestly, there's no comparison with the Switch in any of these consoles, to be honest.
Yes.
The Switch is just very underpowered at this point.
Well, it's
So
just doing its own thing, and if anything, it actually makes the Switch even more impressive in
it
that,
is,
in this market,
yeah,
comparatively speaking, with the specs of other current generation consoles, that it's holding its own and even outselling in some points.
yeah, and I think Digital Foundry they did a great breakdown on the Steam Deck.
Yes.
They pretty much pointed out the Switch's or Nintendo's formula to success for the Switch, and that is very good developer support and developer optimization. That's pretty much what is making the Switch successful at this point. That and their first party titles. So, anyways, let's get back to the comparison here. So, you have the Valve Steam Deck all the way on the left. So, you see it's got 4 core AMD Zen, 2 CPU. Um, it's at 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz. All right. The Xbox Series X is 8 core, and that's at 3.8 gigahertz with SMT, and I'm not sure what SMT is.
It means Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah. Um,
I actually
the
don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. So the Xbox Series S is also 8 cores, and that's 3.6 gigahertz. So the Xbox Series X is actually the CPU is pretty close to the Xbox Series X. And then you have the PS5, which is also 8 core with 3.5 gigahertz.
Just so
Um,
you know, I just looked it up. It's simultaneous multi-threading. That's what SMT means.
okay. So that means that it's good at managing bandwidth. So yeah, those are all in line. Now Valve is half the cores. It doesn't have SMT, and it's 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz. Now I assume some smart people are going to find a way to overclock it to make it a steady 3.5 gigahertz.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's going to be an option in the future. All right, so then let's look at the GPU. The GPU is they all have the same. They have the AMD RDNA 2, and we have to look at the raw power though. So the Steam Deck has 8 CUs at 1 to 1.6 gigahertz. The Xbox Series X has 52 CUs at 1.825, and the Xbox Series S has 20 CUs, and the PS5 has 36 CUs. So as you can see here, the Xbox Series X. Oh, but you know what though? The PS5 has a higher clock frequency at 2.23 gigahertz. So the Xbox Series X and the PS5 are I would assume are pretty much in line. Um, Variable stats, but they're pretty close. But as you can see, the Xbox Series S is, almost two and a half times more powerful than the Valve Steam Deck. So
Yes.
you got to keep that in mind. Now let's look at the GPU power. So this is when you count everything, all these stats. The Steam Deck is 1.6. The Xbox Series X is 12.15. The Xbox Series S is 4. And the PS5 is 10.28. So this is raw power. And I believe even the PS4 and the Xbox One are like a little under 2. So they're even higher than the Valve Steam Deck. And then you have RAM. They all have 16 except for the Xbox Series S. But I believe that LPDDR5 is
Like the latest and greatest.
no, it might be a lower quality than the GDDR6.
Ah,
But I really don't think it's going to make much of a difference. You're still getting 16 gigs. And then the performance target. So this is where we have to. This is the most important stat I think here, because performance target means that this thing is engineered to achieve this, right? So for the Valve Steam Deck, you have 720p at 60 hertz, which for a handheld is good, right?
yes.
Because that's what the Switch is actually trying to accomplish as well. And their new OLED model is 720p, right?
Yes.
And then you look at the Xbox Series X. Their standard is 4K at 60 frames per second, and up to 8K. And they also want to push games at 120 frames per second. And I would assume those are going to be 1080p titles. And then you have the Xbox Series X, which is 1440p at 60 frames per second, up to 120. And then the Xbox or the PS5 target to be determined. Well, I think we can say with certainty that their goal is 4K.
Yes.
Especially when you look at the newer game like Ratchet and Clank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which runs beautifully, I must say, on the PS5. And this one also supports up to 8K, up to 120 frames per second. So, yeah, that's the main like takeaway here, right?
Yes.
Is that at the end of the day, this thing is going for goals that are for a handheld. All right, it's not going for goals of a traditional high-powered console or a desktop PC. All right. Um, but we have to say that I want to say that even though the raw power is much less, this thing should perform better than a PS4 and an Xbox One because of the new architecture. It's got the same architecture as the newer consoles. So that alone is going to boost its performance quite significantly.
It's
So
very current gen.
yes, I would put this thing, now it could be anywhere, but I would confidently put this thing between a PS4 and a PS5 as far as performance goes.
Didn't
Now,
Digital Foundry compare it to an Xbox Series S?
yes, yeah. So it's like a weaker Xbox Series S, which is not bad at all,
Yeah.
and is quite capable. Now, I do want to say that the Xbox Series S only supports up to 1440p. This thing can support up to 8K, right? And that's because it's a PC, and they're giving the flexibility. Now, will it ever be able to play any kind of game at 8K? Probably not. But will it be able to play like
It'll play Minecraft at 8K.
yeah. Will it be able to play a turn-based strategy game at 8K? Maybe. It may be. Or I would say definitely at 4K. You could probably get away.
The new Diablo remaster.
Yeah.
Diablo
Yeah.
2, pardon.
You could probably play very non-graphically intense games at 4K using this thing. So that's definitely going to be a test. And then I want to point out something very interesting that I found out. So let's pull this up. And I actually sent this to you and John this morning because I found it last night. So a lot of people were worried about the hard drive space because the base model is only 64 gigs of a lower quality hard drive, right?
Yes.
It's still fast, but it's not as fast as an NVMe. But the 215 and the 512 are still going to fill up relatively quickly depending on which games you play. But someone emailed Gabe Newell and he responded that all three models have a 2230 M2 slot. So that means that if you're like technically sound or you can, hire someone, you can put another hard drive, another internal SSD hard drive into all three of the models. Okay. So I think that's important. I think they should have told people that before they purchased. But the thinking is that they didn't tell anyone because most users are unable to mod it that way, right?
Not just that, but doesn't the article also state that it would probably void the warranty on it? Like it's kind of like modifying the system in a way that they don't actually want you to do.
Yeah, maybe, but also I'm looking at the fact that they designed this thing to be able
To be
expanded.
expanded.
And they also designed it so that you could do whatever you want with it. Like you don't even have to keep their software on it. You can totally turn this into a Windows gaming PC if you want. So who knows? It might void it just because like legally that's what every company does, right? If you're opening it up. But I would say the risk is low if someone who knows a lot about like laptop repair or does it. I would say the risk is pretty low to any kind of damage. So there you have it. All three models have another SSD slot, which is very cool.
Yes.
Like I said,
Get that 2 terabyte NVMe in there.
Dude, you just do it once and you're set for years.
Exactly.
Or you can just swap in and out
Micro
SD cards. Yeah, and you know what? That's kind of makes sense because it kind of makes it almost like similar to a Switch in a way, right? Because you just load all your games on one card, right? and then when you want to play them, just label your cards and you switch them in and out. You know what I mean? It's not that hard, right?
I mean, there's 1 terabyte cards, and aren't 2 terabyte micro SD cards on the way?
Maybe I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question. I was considering just buying a 512 to start off with.
And there's 1 terabytes for,
Okay.
well, actually, it's practically double the 512. So
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of price,
I usually go one step lower than the newest cutting edge
fair.
because the newest cutting edge is usually cost an arm and a leg, you know?
That's true.
So yeah. um, I mean, I think we talked about this. Valve hit a nerve here in the gaming community. People were expecting a more powerful Switch.
Didn't
They
get it.
didn't get it, and Valve capitalized literally the same day. Like, so I mean, what's your opinion on this? Do you think this could change the landscape of gaming?
I mean, it really does. Time will tell. Time will
Yeah,
definitely tell because
yeah,
I can't. It already has shown that there is interest. And these things did sell out, so that's already a good thing. People are hyped for it, and this will introduce a family-friendly version of PC gaming that people don't tend to just go into.
yes, yeah,
So this is very much for the end users out there that haven't really taken that leap into the PC gaming space. And
yes,
this looks both accessible and affordable, which are two important factors. Now, one thing that I would say is that price point really the price point for people, for the end user, comparatively speaking, to say someone that might be interested in a Switch?
yeah.
Because I mean, yes, it's $50 more, but it doesn't have those Switch games. But oh my God, the library on Steam is insane.
It's massive.
And not just
It's
that, but
massive.
Steam sales are incredible.
Oh, yeah,
So
you can't even
so
compare game prices between Nintendo and Steam.
so I mean, but here's the thing: will people know that? How will Steam market that? Because Steam doesn't really, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't really market
No,
themselves.
no. I
I
don't
mean,
see any Steam ads.
people just know,
Yes.
or people that are in the know just know.
Yeah.
So I mean, Epic is on an uphill battle. They're trying to fight against Steam.
Yeah.
So that's why I see a lot of like it's on Epic or it's Epic exclusive.
Yeah.
Steam hasn't needed to do that because they've dominated in that space.
Yes. Well, dude, I was looking at my Steam account. I set it up in 2005. So I was one of the earliest adopters of cloud gaming. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because they've kind of rested on their laurels for a long time.
Yeah.
And granted, uh, they have tried, what was it, the Steam Index?
Yes, which, as far as I can tell, is very good, but it's just very expensive. It's $1,000, and there's not many of them. You know what I mean?
Price people out. And there's
Yeah.
the Steam Box. The
Yeah.
Steam Box. I was actually kind of interested in the Steam Box.
Yeah.
Um, but then I was like, why not just get a PC?
Exactly. So this entices people further than the Steam box did.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, a Steam box was so generic that you could just make your own if you wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You
No,
didn't have.
and I
Yeah.
did. You actually built mine, remember?
Yes. Yeah. I did build you a gaming PC.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I would say, look, you and John reserved one. You're part of the demographic that doesn't have a high-powered gaming PC.
Correct. I have
Yeah.
I mean my PC struggles to play Dark Souls.
Yeah. So this is for you guys. And funny enough, I have a friend I was trying to convince so hard to get this because it's for him because he has a very like, you know, older gaming PC and it's just not working right. And all his games he has to put down on lower settings. And we haven't been able to help him get a gaming PC because you can't get GPUs right now. You know, it's so hard to get a gaming PC. Then Valve comes out with the perfect solution, you know, like, and you don't have to play it as a handheld. You can just plug it into a screen and then hook up a mouse and keyboard, and it's a desktop at that point, you know. And so I was like, dude, this is for you, man. They made this for you.
I
And
just
I
want to make sure you don't need the dock in order to connect it
no
to a screen. You can connect
no
it to a screen just via the console itself.
yeah, actually, I don't have it here with me, but I have one of those covert Genki covert docks for the Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you can use that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. Because it picks up the signal from the USB
See?
C. Yeah, yeah. And then it
Okay, that's
just
very cool.
yeah, yeah. So there's a bunch of those devices out there. So yeah, you don't even need a dock. You can just buy like a little stand and then just hook it up to something like a covert dock. So
My question is, like, how will because I'm not familiar with the PC gaming space
mhm.
because I'm predominantly a console player. And that's one of the reasons though I think people end users or people like myself veer towards console is because you don't really have to think about the specs of your
Yeah,
PC and whether a game will run on it or not, whether the next game will run on it or not,
yeah,
because these consoles are standardized
yep,
and developers develop for these consoles.
yes.
That being said, I'm wondering if, in terms of like the actual console itself for the Steam Deck, like how mod support will work on it.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would assume the way to do mod support would be
Because that's
you
one of the reasons why like I want to play PC versions of games is because like they can break the molds in these games where we can use fan-made mods.
yes. Yeah. I would assume that you would just have to the easiest way to do it would be hook up a mouse and keyboard
Mm.
and download the mod and just manually move it to whatever
Folder needs to be
folder.
put in.
Yeah. It honestly it should be that simple
Yeah.
to
Okay.
be honest. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, there's excitement. Like I had a little, there's a little bit of trepidation first
Hmm.
because this is a completely digital console because
Yes.
it's Steam, you
Yeah.
know, you're dealing with Steam. But I mean, I do purchase games on Steam, and it's mostly because
They're
the
cheap.
the sales,
They're
the sales
cheap,
are
man.
insane,
Yeah.
and I can't play Fallout New Vegas on my Switch.
Yeah. 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 And also a lot of the best indie games on the Switch came out on Steam first.
Correct.
You know,
Like
like
like Hades.
yeah, or Ender Lilies. Yeah, so yeah, the potential's there, and I do want to say that I don't think they developers have to optimize for this Steam Deck as much as people think because, like you and me were talking, when people make PC games, they add so many settings. You know what I mean? Like you can go
I
down
mean,
to like
they go to a minimum setting. They have to
yes,
have a
they
minimum
have to
setting.
have a minimum setting. Yeah. So you're going to be able to play most of these new AAA titles on PC at 720p at 60 frames a second. So I really don't see much of an issue here with compatibility. So
Well, the one important thing that you haven't brought up that I think you're the one that told it, or John told me in the chat. Game Pass support.
oh yeah, I actually did bring that up. Yeah.
Game Pass
Um
support is huge.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and I also brought up the fact that this thing is going to be an emulation beast. You
Yes.
know, like you're going to people don't realize they're looking at this like they look at a normal console. This is not a normal this is a PC in a handheld form. This thing is going to be able to have so many games. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to have more Nintendo games than a Switch.
It's gonna blow your mind. You're looking
Yeah.
at the future.
Yeah. It's going to have more Nintendo games than a Switch. It's going to have more Sony games than a PlayStation. It's going to be insane. And it's going to have Game Pass. So, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's also a huge selling point for
Yeah.
it. Just mobile Xbox One, which even then Xbox and by Xbox One I meant like Xbox games.
Yeah.
But even Xbox themselves with Game Pass, they want to be accessible
Mhm.
anywhere. So having instead of like buying a specialized controller or tethering a controller to
Mhm.
your cell phone and then having your cell phone on a cradle of some sort,
xCloud.
everything's right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Everything's right there with the with what I think is actually a pretty good looking machine. What do you think about the aesthetics of it?
Yeah, a lot of people were saying it reminds them of a Game Gear. And
That Game Gear was bulky as hell. My
yeah.
cousin had a Game Gear. I was so jealous.
Yeah.
Like I was with my Game Boy, like my fat original Game Boy, and he
Can't
had his
see in
Game
the
Gear.
dark. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Those colors were really vibrant. Granted, it only lasted like 20 minutes, but
Yeah.
still.
Um, yeah, there was a lot of people though saying it was ugly and they wouldn't buy it for that reason, but I think that's very short-sighted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't think that it's ugly. It's very incredibly similar to the Switch. It's not
Yeah.
as well balanced as the Switch, and I think it's because of the touchpads.
Yes.
Uh, but those touchpads are a necessity
Hmm. For
for the.
PC
Yes, exactly.
and also for games like, StarCraft or League of Legends or something like that.
But I do find it interesting that the D-pad and the analog stick are parallel to each other,
Yes.
as well as the right-handed D-pad or the right-handed analog stick with the buttons.
Yes. Yeah, that is. Yeah, well, we'll have to experiment with it, I'm sure a lot of people are going to
Put it through its
custom
paces.
yeah. Yeah, customize how they use this thing.
But even then, it does have controller support. Funny enough.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
you could essentially just
so, so,
plop
so, so
plop
then you're
yeah.
putting yourself in the same position as like a cell phone.
Yeah. It just has the sky's the limit with this thing. There's just so many ways to use it.
Correct.
So, yeah, I'm hyped, man. I'm
No,
excited.
no, no, no. If anything, funny enough, Geo he went ahead and he was on top of it from the jump,
Mhm.
and he went ahead and pre-ordered the initial wave. It wasn't until after that that I was like, like seeing Geo's hype and also reading more about the system, like I started to get sold, and that's why in the second wave, I was able to pre-order one for the
Yeah.
Q2 2022 release.
Yeah, and we don't know how many there's speculation that the first wave was over 100,000, which is not much, but you have to consider that this is Valve's first like gaming console.
And it's during a chip shortage.
Yes. So they probably were very conservative with this initial ordering phase. So, yeah, there you have it, man. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm
I
excited
hope
as well.
I'm hoping that I'm one of the first waves that get it in December. Um and yeah, I'm going to turn this thing into a dedicated PC machine in my gaming room. So I'm going to hook it up to my main TV and it's going to be awesome. Honestly, I can't wait cuz I have a Steam Link, but the Steam Link is like it doesn't support all your games. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think the
Well,
game has to be supported by Steam Link.
well, that's a good question actually. It depend like what games are there? Will there be games that are not supported that won't be able to be played on the Steam Deck?
Yeah, so
I imagine that there will be. Kind of like a good example is like the original Witcher, which I was actually just playing
yeah.
on Steam. Like you don't have any kind of controller support for that game. It has
Yes.
to be played with a keyboard and mouse.
So, what I would say is there's two things here. One, there's something called okay, first of all, if the game is not developed natively for Linux, it's going to use a middleware called Proton, which is a Windows emulation layer. There's a database called ProtonDB. I believe it's protondb.com. You can go there and see the compatibility of the game, right?
Mm.
And also, Valve said they're going to work extra hard to increase that compatibility the best they can.
That's very
So
cool.
yeah, so they're probably going to have a compatibility division, kind of like how Xbox does with their platforms.
Yeah, man,
Um,
but they kind of stopped. Like, I'm still waiting for Otogi to be backwards compatible.
yeah, yeah. I've never played that game yet.
I played it on the original Xbox, but I haven't brought that out in a while. So
Yeah. And also, I want to point out that if there is a game and you want to play it and it's not supported by Proton, you don't have to do this. I know it's going to be troublesome for some people, but you can just straight up install Windows and just run the games natively. You don't have to use Steam OS. And I think that's the important thing people should be aware of. So if anyone tells you, yeah, but can it run this game? The answer is yes. It can. It can run that game. Yeah, it can run all the games.
can it run Breath of the Wild?
Yes, actually, yeah. There's a believe it or not, I never did this because I own a Switch and I beat it on Switch, but there is a Windows version of Breath of the Wild that somebody made.
Oh,
Yeah.
not
It
surprised.
obviously it's illegal, but
Yeah,
it's out there and it's on Windows. So, all right.
interesting. Okay.
Next up, Final Fantasy XIV had such a spike in players that Square Enix temporarily ran out of digital copies. So, this happened this week, and I'm gonna. This is actually a pretty decent article because it breaks down what could have led to this, but essentially, here's some screenshots showing that people couldn't purchase the digital version of Final Fantasy XIV.
Well,
And
it's only isn't it only digital?
well, yes and no. There are some very rare physical versions out there,
Ah, okay.
but you can't. I mean, you have to pre-order those like immediately, and they sell out like almost instantly. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Kind of like how WoW physical versions are. They're only really collector's editions. Um, so yeah, essentially for most people, it is a digital only game. Now that being said, you would assume that you cannot run out of a digital only game, right? Um,
Yeah.
but they did, and people were unable to download the game. They were unable to create new characters and sign up for servers. Um, and this article also goes on to say that Asmongold, who is a huge, like one of the biggest names in World of Warcraft, him and I would say like Towley and some others. I usually watch Towley, but this guy played Final Fantasy XIV, and after he played it, it was like there was 200,000 people watching him play it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he just like brought like mass exposure to the game, and after that, that's when the game ran out. um, so I don't know if he was directly
Responsible for it.
responsible, but he definitely helped. He definitely helped. And also, there's a growing dissatisfaction with World of Warcraft right now.
Oh yes. WoW refugee is a
Yeah.
thing.
So after you said that, I found a post on I think it was NeoGAF maybe, I don't know. Oh no, I know. Okay, yeah, it was on NeoGAF, but it was originally on the WoW forums. And someone who was an insider claiming they worked at Blizzard made an anonymous account and posted this long rant about how the executives at Blizzard don't know what the hell they're doing and they're basically destroying WoW.
Ouch.
So
Well, wait, you're
yeah,
a WoW player.
yeah,
You tend to come back every expansion,
yeah,
even though you may not play on the daily.
yeah.
Uh,
This was
do
the
you
only
know
expansion I haven't finished yet.
do you know what is going on? Like
Yeah,
what's happening? Why is that?
Well, first, there's a couple of reasons. One, they fragmented their own player base by releasing
WoW Classic.
WoW Classic and BC Classic. So there's three versions of WoW now that are officially supported. So if you're playing on one, you're not on the others, and that has fragmented the player base a lot. So I
But
don't
here's the
think,
thing: even though it fragmented the player base, they are still playing WoW.
yeah, but it's not good if your focus is on one of them. You know what I mean? And their focus is on WoW, the evolution of WoW, right? Second, they are neglecting the world. And what I mean by that is they haven't really pushed for world PvP. They haven't really pushed for world raids. They haven't really pushed for world interactions. They're just trying to get people into instances to play.
Okay.
Um, they haven't really been doing a good job with PvP. And yeah, I mean, look, I've had complaints of WoW that I thought they dumbed it down way too much over the years and made it just way too basic. And I liked the learning curve of the original WoW. Um, it made me more focused. It made me, do my research. I would be on, you know, thought. What was it called? Thoughtbot or something like that.
I don't know.
Just looking up gear. Just looking up. I want this. I want that. I want to go here. Get this. I want to go. After they streamlined everything, it was just like I could log in and play for a day, and I would get like two epic gears. Even though they were lower quality, it just wasn't the same anymore. You know what I mean? You didn't have to plan out your moves. You didn't have to work
So
with
like
a
sounds like
team.
a loss of a sense of accomplishment.
Yes. Yeah. So I've been down on WoW for years. And I've put thousands of hours into that game. So, yeah, I mean, it's sad to see, but you know what?
Come to FF14.
Yes. Well, first of
You know what?
all,
You know I'm playing.
yeah. First of all, look, good things don't last forever. You know what I mean?
What?
Every everything changes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the people running Blizzard right now haven't found a way to keep WoW a good game. And that leaves openings for other games, and Final Fantasy is picking up the slack. So, yeah, it sucks, but I don't think it's bad. I just think, it's time. WoW's been around forever. I played it since the beginning. Maybe it's just time. And I've tried so many MMOs in the years between that. None of
Yes.
them have grabbed me like WoW, but I think I'll give Final Fantasy XIV another shot.
Cool. Let me
So
know when
yeah.
you do.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, props to Square Enix. Their Final Fantasy XIV is killing it. All right, next up, Resident Evil Village stuttering on PC fixed by removing DRM. Capcom promises patch. So this was did you see the video by Modern Vintage Gamer?
I did not.
Okay. So he posted a video where he said he was discussing it. Essentially, what happened was some hackers they altered the game's code.
Okay.
They were able to get the source code, and they removed the DRM in the game. And when they did that, the game played flawlessly. So it turns out that the PC DRM pretty much ruined the gameplay quality. All right.
Yes.
So here we have this update here. Following growing evidence that DRM is the most likely cause of stuttering in the PC version of Resident Evil Village, Capcom has responded. Speaking to Eurogamer, a spokesperson confirmed. The team are working on a patch to address PC performance issues. It should be available soon. We'll have more details shortly. So, yeah, in the past, Resident Evil game patches have simply removed the DRM once the initial new game sales period is over. It's unclear if Capcom intends to keep the DRM but implement some performance tweaks to stop the stuttering. Remove the DRM completely or both. Hopefully, it won't be long before we find out if PC gamers can start enjoying the game as it was meant to be played. So the so yeah, this type of DRM is done by one company, Denuvo. Yeah, Denuvo,
Yes.
and it it messes up the performance of the games. I
I
mean,
only hear negative things whenever de novo is brought up.
yeah. So look, I get it. They want to protect their game when it's initially released, but you have to test these things out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I understand
yeah,
protection, but protecting at what cost? Because if it's protecting but not allowing the game to be playable,
you're
then you're doing a disservice
yeah,
to the
yeah,
customers that want to play the game.
yeah. So if they can get DRM with no performance hits, that's the right?
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
there's performance hits, don't just leave the DRM out. Just leave it out. Let people play the game as it was intended. Yes, there's going to be some hacking, but look, these guys were able to hack it anyways. They were able to hack it anyways and remove the DRM. So what does that tell you? It tells you that
People will find a way.
yeah, people will find a way to fix a game that you purposely hamstrung to keep people from hacking it. So yeah, you're right. Look, the solution must not destroy the product. you know. So yeah, there you have it. They're aware. So I would say like don't even buy the PC version at this point. Just get a console version if you can.
Yeah, it plays really well in the Xbox Series X. I can tell you that from experience.
Nice, nice. All right. Next up, and I hate doing videos like this because I know we get deranked, but it has to be done. So this is an article from Gama Sutra. We got to talk about this.
I don't even understand what I just read the title. I reread it twice, and I still
Yeah.
don't understand what's happening.
So yeah, let me read the title, I guess, out loud. Stadia to give devs a cut of Stadia Pro revenue based on how often their game is played. So this is so I'll tell you essentially what they're doing is they're saying, look, we want more people to develop for Stadia Pro, which is their I don't know how to say this, like their
Yeah, what's the
subscription
difference?
version, right?
Oh, okay.
So that's the one you have to pay extra to get.
Okay.
And they want more games for that, right? But the way that they're going about incentivizing it is detrimental to the gaming community. And the reason why, and a lot of people brought this up, the reason why this is detrimental is because if you say, look, we're not going to pay you based on how much effort you put in this game, how good this game runs, how good it plays. We're going to pay you on its performance only. You're setting up,
Performance based on sales
yeah, you're setting up a horrible
or
precedent.
clicks.
And the reason why is because this is the tactic that's used in mobile gaming. And as we know, mobile gaming does not have the best quality games. And in fact, they focus on a certain type of predatory gaming called gacha gaming. And the reason why they focus on this is because that's what makes money. That's what gets the clicks, and that's what does well because it creates addictive habit forming behaviors. So if you're trying to support gaming and you're trying to be in the console business, which is what Stadia is basically a cloud console, right? You're not helping gaming in any way by turning it into mobile gaming. You know what I mean?
I mean, the problem is that that's where the money is.
Yeah, I know. But I think at the end of the day, we already chose not to support Stadia.
Yes.
And I think this further reinforces my choice, to be honest. Because if they're going to incentivize turning regular games, console games, into mobile games, I don't want to have any part of that. So yeah, that's my piece. I mean, how do you feel?
I think Stadia needs to go the way of Google Plus.
The way,
That's my 2 cents.
yeah.
I mean, it's apparent to me that Stadia, the effort and the marketing, it's not for the love of video games.
No.
It's for the money.
Yeah.
And there's granted, Nintendo is in this business for money. So is Sony. So is Microsoft. But there are people that are developing these products that really do love games and want to see games continue to excel and improve and innovate.
Yes.
Stadia doesn't look like that.
No.
Stadia looks like we have all this technology, we can make money.
Yes.
Let's do it. And there wasn't a lot of forethought brought into this product, and it had a disastrous launch, and it's having a disastrous lifespan.
Yeah, they shuttered their own studios.
Yeah, and that's just it just shows a lack of care.
Yeah.
So
I would say, look, I don't relish the fact that this is dying because, I know someone who has Stadia and he tries to push it so hard, and everyone's just like, bro, just go away.
Fetch
Yeah.
isn't gonna happen.
They're just like, bro, you're the only one I know who has Stadia. You're not convincing any of us. But it sucks that he's clueless that this is what he bought. You know what I mean? And
Well, here's the thing: Cyberpunk runs on Stadia.
yeah,
It doesn't run on PS4.
yeah.
So there are positives depending on the developer, but overall, Stadia as a platform, it just doesn't seem like it really has the gamers in mind.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. And at the end of the day, you have to have an underlying philosophy that supports your base. And if you're Stadia, your base is gamers. It's not mobile gamers. It's gamers. So I would say they need new leadership, to be honest. Because it looks like all the decisions they're making are wrong. And the technology's there. The technology's there. But they're just making the worst decisions that don't align with gamers. I mean,
it makes me wonder what someone like Microsoft or Sony would have been able to do with the technology. We know Nintendo is incredibly far behind in terms of technology, and they're doing their own thing. Let them do their own thing.
Yeah.
But Sony and Microsoft are neck and neck. I say Microsoft was more ahead in terms of Xbox Live than PlayStation ever was, and they were trying to play catch up for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Game Pass, Microsoft, and Phil Spencer has said it himself that he's not competing with Sony, he's not competing with Nintendo.
Yeah.
Competing with ideas like Stadia, and they want to be in that space, but really take advantage of that space in a way that Stadia isn't.
Yes. Which I would say is doing what's best for gamers.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I know that covering this is automatically going to put us at a disadvantage in the algorithm. So if you appreciate this frank honesty, please like and subscribe. And all right. So next story. All right. This is not an article. I'm just straight up pulling up eBay.
These look like really good deals.
I know. So what I did was I did a search new for Nintendo Switch OLED from 500 to 2000. And look how many pages, look how many results. This is insane, man. Wow. Now, some people might say in the grand scheme of the total, it's not much, but you have to keep in mind, a lot of these people selling on here have multiple pre-orders.
Well, it's close to double. I mean,
Yeah, they're just
the
selling
base
one at
model
a
is
time.
350.
Y-
Yeah.
So,
A lot of these are confirmed pre-orders.
yeah. So, this is what I want to talk about because this is out of hand. Look, I want to say that I put out a video. You weren't on the show that week about Metroid Dread scalping.
Why you gotta rub it in my face, man?
I know. And in the video, I had a take that a lot of people didn't agree with. I blamed Nintendo. And I want to iterate why I blame Nintendo because at the time I didn't do a good job of explaining it and a lot of people disagreed, which I think is fine. But I think blaming
For context, what did you say initially, or is it just base?
Oh,
How you
I
just blame
said
Nintendo?
the headline was Nintendo enables scalpers. Something to that effect.
And what did people that were contrary to your opinion say?
They were like, "No, Geo, it's the retailers. It's all the retailers. It's their fault."
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I wanna point out something because blaming the retailer is a low hanging fruit, right? Because the retailer's selling it, right?
Yes.
But and look, the retailers they have to find a way to deal with scalpers, right? That's just inevitable. They have to find a way. But the retailers are not the ones who make the product. They're not the ones who decide where the product is sold, and they're not the ones who decide how the product is sold or how many are sold. That is on Nintendo at the end of the day. They make all the decisions. And that's what I was trying to point out. If Nintendo knew a way to protect their most loyal customers from scalpers, at the end of the day, they're the only ones who can enact that, not the retailers, because the retailers are all different companies. They're not going to have a unified front. Nintendo has to make this choice. So that's what I was saying. Yes, retailers do have some blame, but Nintendo makes the choice. And that's what I was trying to point out. And as you can see here clearly, Nintendo is not doing enough to stop scalpers. They're just outsourcing it to retailers and just saying, look, good luck, you know? And yeah, that's my take on it. I mean, I don't know if you agree or not. I mean, what do you think?
Well, if anything, I want to pose a question to you. To be
Mhm.
honest, what do you think about how Valve handled selling the Steam Deck?
You know
Because
what?
there was no retailer, there was no third party, if you will.
Yeah.
It was just them, and they attempted to curb selling to scalpers by Stem Deck, to selling to scalpers by what's it called? Having a account gate, if you will.
Yes.
Like you
Yeah.
needed to have made a purchase. But here's the thing: the account thing, they limited it to creating an account from June 2021, which was last month.
Exactly. Which means that if you were a scalper, you couldn't just go out, create an account, and order one.
Yeah,
Which,
no, which I get, but also at the same time, scalpers, I'd like to think, are people that play games, or that might play games, if
mhm.
you will, and would probably have an account that's like, older than a month.
Yes. Yeah.
I just think it was like
It's a bare
it's a bare
minimum.
minimum. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
So
okay.
so like the Steam Deck also has, as you can see right here, a lot of 77 results versus
Exactly. That's
790.
the difference. That is the difference. So, if you look here, there's only 77 compared to. Now, granted, there was probably a lot more OLED models, but I mean, come on. The bare minimum
Hmm.
that Valve did to curb scalpers
Yes.
obviously had a drastic effect. There's only 77 on eBay. So
Interesting.
just that little minimum that they did made a big impact. So yeah, I think Nintendo needs to like take notice that their fans are upset at this scalping, and they want them to help them, you know? So that's all I'm trying to point out, you know?
I
That's
mean,
what I'm trying to point
I
out.
agree with you to a point, especially in terms of stock. A
Yeah.
good example is literally any kind of amiibo that people want. Uh, the Monster Hunter amiibos that recently came out for Rise and Stories 2
Hmm.
are selling for stupid prices because you can't get them, and
Yeah.
scalpers straight up just took them.
Yeah.
The same thing with the new Zelda amiibo, the
Hmm.
Lost Wing.
Hmm.
Like you can't find it. Funny enough, it is shipping late, but
Yeah.
still, um, when it comes to these items and being sold,
Hmm.
like the stock is definitely plays a figure into it, and that's directly on Nintendo.
Hmm.
But I think you stated not too long ago, I think it was a few episodes back, and by a few episodes back, it was probably like last year.
Yeah.
Something about the digital security of trying to curb scalping
Hmm.
and like making sure that bots aren't getting through and making purchases.
Yeah.
You've spoken about that before. Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that is definitely on the retailer
Yes. Yeah.
because of these digital storefronts. They're
Yeah.
controlled by them, not Nintendo.
Yes. So that's why I'm saying part of the blame is on the retailers, right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's still Nintendo who can make these decisions.
Yeah.
It's not the retailer. So I think you should always blame your first like when the blame game comes, you're the first person you should look to is the one making all the decisions. And that is clearly Nintendo. So why would it help to just blame the retailers and just ignore, like, yeah, it's not Nintendo's. No, Nintendo makes all the choices. Like, you got to realize that. Like, you got to realize Nintendo's making all the choices.
But we do need better security in these digital
Yes.
storefronts.
Yeah. And that's something they're going to have to figure out because it's not just Nintendo, it's everything is getting scalped these days, you
Yeah.
know?
I tried to order chicken
PS5,
nuggets.
Xbox. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Um, yeah. So, yeah. Retailers, step up your anti-bot game, but Nintendo, you know, look at the situation and make some better decisions, please, because people are getting very frustrated. I mean, I see it. I see it in the comments all the time.
Yes.
You know, so they definitely need to do something. All right, and for our final story, a copy of Super Mario 64 sold for 1.5 million, raising eyebrows. So this article from Polygon by Nicole Carpenter. And so, okay, this is Heritage Auctions. They what do they call it? Scoring it or
I have no idea.
yeah? Oh, rating. They rate it. So they rated this game at a 9.4, right? So for those of you who don't know, in the collectors community, it could be anything. It could be baseball cards, comic books, games, right?
It says 9.8 on the
Is it
tweet.
9.8? Oh, yeah,
It
it is
says
9.8.
9.8 A plus plus.
Yeah, so this is like a pristine copy, right? That means the cardboard is really good. It's got all the contents, everything like that.
No one's
So,
breathed on it in 20 years.
yeah, pretty much. It's been hermetically sealed. um, so, whenever something is rated, its value goes up tremendously because it's an expert has looked at it and deemed the quality, right? So there's not much question of how good it is. Now, that being said, this game is not worth $1.5 million. Now, what is going on here? So a lot of people are speculating like uh you know, this game should not be this much. Now, some people think so here's this is just a tweet by somebody. The price jump on this stuff is so sudden. on such specific items that I do not believe it happened naturally. It all feels really suspect, in my opinion. All right. Um, Now we want to. You and me have been pointing this out, and we talk about this all the time. Look at this article here, or this comment here.
Comment.
This is money laundering, or maybe a straw purchase designed to push prices upwards across the board. Right. So, you and me talk about game prices all the time in the secondhand market,
Yes.
and how it's becoming a big problem for
Yeah, so
real
much so
collectors.
like I'm barely in it anymore. It's just I'm being priced out.
I can't hear you. Can you pull your mic up a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's been getting so crazy to the point where I'm just being priced out. Like
Yeah.
it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Mostly because the games that I want now are more rare games.
Yes. Yeah. So I think, look, a lot of people don't know this, but the art world is rife with
Corruption.
corruption, tax evasion, stuff like that. So you'll get a lot of people like, selling crappy paintings or even maybe good ones that just are not worth that much. And what it
Well,
is,
art is subjective.
yeah, art is subjective, but people use it to either launder money between people or they use it to stash money from taxes, right? So is that what happened with this game? I don't know. Maybe. Or like the game says, is this being used for market manipulation? Because a lot of these people that resell games all the time, they do really well when these game prices are at their peak. And like you said, you're getting priced out. I'm having a hard time getting certain games. Because of this issue, I actually had to put myself on a gaming budget, which I never had before because I could buy like a couple games here and there for cheap, right?
Yeah.
But now I have to get like one good used game a month now that's a collector's game because they're just too much.
Hashtag first world problems.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is a
But still,
first
it
world
is an issue.
problem.
It's an issue.
It is an issue though. And so yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. I think honestly, I think there's market manipulation going on because it's either that or it's a combination of market manipulation plus
Supply and demand.
supply and demand. The fact that retro gaming has blown up in the recent years.
I mean, not just retro gaming, but collectibles in general. A good example is, and maybe it's because it's gaming adjacent,
Hmm.
but I think collectibles in general. Gravity Rush. I really like Gravity Rush. I've spoken about that before. I would really love to have a figure of Cat from
Hmm.
Gravity Rush. Figma makes some awesome figures, and
Hmm.
they tend to sell pretty expensive depending on which one you get.
Hmm.
But their price range is in the hundred, in like
Okay.
the lower hundreds slash high. What's below hundred? I
Yeah.
don't know what to say. You know,
Tens? I don't know.
yeah, I know, right? It's like it doesn't seem right to say tens. Anyways, around the hundred price range, if you will. But a cat figure for Gravity Rush is selling for like 300 something used,
Yeah, that's insane, man.
and I can't afford that.
Yeah.
And it's just silly. It's getting a little crazy out there. And we just talked about amiibos.
Hmm.
Amiibos are selling for double the price, if
Yeah.
not more at times.
Yeah.
So you really got to jump on it before like as the pre-orders are available. But yeah, no, the market is getting crazy.
Yeah. I'm so glad I don't collect amiibos because I'd be pulling my hair out even more.
Well, it's not even like collecting amiibos in the sense that like, ooh, I need to get them all.
Yeah.
It's more like, ooh, this one's coming out. I would really like this one.
Yeah.
It's already been scalped like crazy, and the value has shot up significantly because you can't get it from first party
Yeah.
sellers or third party
So
sellers.
I wanna give a couple tips to people out there, and you probably have some too. One, find a local shop that sells retro games, right? That's a big one. Because you and me are lucky we have East Starland, which you can order from them online if you want to. Two, sometimes it's better to buy the European version of games because the European version usually doesn't sell out like the American version, and they run on American systems and they're English, right? Most of them have English support.
Well, it depends on what system you're talking about because you're not going to get a European PS2 game.
No, I mean like the newer consoles.
PS3, yeah,
Yeah,
end
yeah.
up. I get it.
And
Except
then
for Xbox 360, maybe.
yeah, yeah, probably Xbox. And then like, but it's really good for like Switch games and PS4 games.
Correct.
And then three, um, try to get games on sale. Um, Go to like slickdeals.com and click on their game sale tab. And every once in a while, I'll score like a Japanese game that turns out it ends up being rare. Or I'll find a good GameStop deal, like buy two get one free or buy one get one free. And what happens is they send it to you a lot of times. They'll send just the disc or they'll send just the cartridge. You can buy. I buy actual the real cartridge or case. I purchase the real cases on eBay and just send them here, and then I have a complete copy now. So there's ways and tricks that you got to come up with because this stuff it just costs too much. And also, I make a lot of my own repro cases. So if I get games and I can't find a used original case, I'll just buy a cheap case and then I'll print out my own insert. So yeah, there's tricks that you can do to make it more bearable. But yeah, it's crazy right now, man. I don't know what to say. It's
It's wild
crazy.
up in these streets.
Yeah.
I'm
So
I'm I'm actually more of a complete in box like OG collector.
yeah,
I'm not a fan of the repro cases unless it's for a game that hasn't come out,
yeah,
kind of like Mother 3.
yes, yeah.
Um, but in terms of pardon. But in terms of like selling or purchasing games, one other tidbit I would say is just kind of like do your research and don't jump the gun on kind of like buy it now prices
Hmm.
because things do fluctuate
Hmm.
depending on what you're looking at, obviously, because a copy of Snatcher for Sega CD isn't going to go down anytime soon.
No,
Um,
no.
but in terms of like these newer games, I would be cognizant in terms of the type of game, who's developing it,
Hmm.
and the historical availability of something like that game. A good example, which Geo actually just brought me into this one, Fairy Tale
Hmm.
for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. That game, uh, developed, I believe, by Bandai Namco or
Hmm.
Gust. It's developed by Gust. It was published by Bandai Namco. Anime game and JRPG.
Overlooked game. Very
Yes,
overlooked game.
based off of a popular anime. That game came out, little fanfare, average review scores, but look for it now on eBay, and it is significantly more expensive, even used, than when it originally came out new.
Yeah.
And it's as like being cognizant of these kinds of games. I was fortunate enough to get it used from GameStop for much cheaper, but even then,
Hmm.
the prices are wild for that
Yeah.
game. And it honestly, it feels like it comes out of nowhere. But if you look at these kinds of games and you do your due diligence, you can see like, hey, there's quality here. It may not be the best quality to some,
Yeah.
but I mean, some of my favorite games are B level games.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Same here.
and some of those games are the games that gain the most value.
Yes.
A good example is like something with a game that I'm hunting right now that I've been hunting for a while and I haven't gotten yet is Samurai Western, an Atlas published title that it looks like, very generic action game, but I want to play it. I think it looks like a lot of fun. People do have fun with it.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Right now it's selling for close to 300.
Yeah.
Somewhere around the 200-300 price range.
Yeah.
So it's like, dang it, when that game, why didn't I get that game when it first came out? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, because I thought it looked like ass.
Exactly. Exactly. And also I want to point out like something to be cognizant of towards the end of a console's lifespan, like right now is towards the end of PS4 and Xbox One, when games only for that console come out and they're more smaller titles, they tend to have a very low print run. And you might want to look at those. A lot of people dismiss those games because they're like, yeah, I want a PS5 now and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at some of these games, they're instantly collector's items because it's at the end of the life cycle and they just don't print many. And it ends up being a good game. And in a few years, it's over $100, $200. So that's also something to be aware. If you want to, like, for example, now's the time to collect PS4 games. Now's the time to collect Switch games. Not in a year, not in 2 years, now. So,
Especially when Switch games are going crazy with their prices. I
yeah,
mean, if you don't mind me saying, you just recently got a copy of Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
yes. And Circle of Torna.
Uh,
Or
Torna, the Golden Country.
yeah, I don't
You're
know.
fine. You're fine.
I don't know why I say that.
Circle of the Moon Torna.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. I had to get those, and I had to. Unfortunately, they were more because they're hard to get now. You can't get
Yeah.
them new. You know.
And those aren't old games by any means, though.
No,
The Switch
no,
isn't an old console.
no. But
And so, here's a good example: Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. I want that game. I want a physical. I have a physical copy for it on the PS Vita.
yeah,
I don't have it on the Nintendo Switch, and I kind of want it on the Nintendo Switch. Those prices are wild. They're
yeah,
like 130 easy, if not higher than that. And that game came out 2 years ago,
yeah,
if not less than that. Um, to piggyback on what you just said, Observer System Redo just came out physical on the Xbox. It was a digital only game for a long time.
hmm,
It's developed by Blooper Team. I think they're called Blooper Team.
yeah,
The same developers that are rumored to be working on the next Silent Hill.
yeah,
This game will not have a large print run. And I just went ahead. I was just looking. As I was researching Blooper Team because of the whole Silent Hill stuff. I saw that some of their games are getting physical copies.
yeah,
So I snag it up. And I snag it up initially when it first comes out because sometimes even after it just comes out, it doesn't get a sale and it goes up in price, and even the used price goes up.
yes. No, you're
Right?
right.
A good example is literally Fairy Tale. That game just came out not too long
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. And also I want to say like 2 games to look out for. If you have any advice, 2 games to look out for: Cyber Shadow and Ender Lilies. Those are two. When those get physical, that's funny saying that. When those get physical, get a copy if you can because those games are only digital right now. They're huge hits, and they're most likely going to have a very limited physical run if they even get one, which I'm hoping they do.
Well, you're wearing the shirt limited run games, so I'm hoping they do something with it.
Yeah, if someone at Limited Run sees this, please, Cyber Shadow and Ender Lilies. Do you have any games that you're looking out for?
I have a hopeful. I hope that Katana Zero gets a physical soon because I haven't purchased it digitally.
Okay.
And John, friend of the podcast, he's playing it and he's having a great time. He says it's awesome.
Okay.
So, and then like I bought Hades when it was on sale digitally on Switch.
Yeah.
And so like, I purchased it again physically because
Yep.
it finally got a physical version. But in terms of looking out for any other games coming out in the future, unfortunately I don't have anything right now.
Okay.
Star Renegades, which is the strategy RPG, has a physical version that was released in Europe, but I'm kind of hoping that Limited Run has a release. But
Okay.
just in case, it's I believe it's being done by what's that place called?
Special Reserve.
Special reserve games, I believe so.
Okay. All right.
It's either special reserve games or strictly limited games.
Okay. Can you text me that later?
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you have it. Those are our tips. But yeah, be wary about the prices. Don't just buy it now. Give it like a week, because sometimes you'll see a game and it's like, over $100, but you wait a week and some people just decided to sell their copy that week and the price goes down. So
Yeah, in terms of these auctions.
yeah. So be wary of that. And yeah, first world problems.
Good luck on the hunt.
Yeah.
A hunter must hunt.
Yeah, I'm actually playing Horizon Zero Dawn right now. I never played it.
Yeah, I have a friend that's playing it right now on PC though,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're loving the hell out of it. Are you
Dude,
playing on PlayStation?
I love it.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
love
great.
it.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe, leave comments, and we'll see you all next time.
Keep on gaming. Take care.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Games I Speak. If you liked the episode, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.